Why do so many people disappear from your life after you turn 70? It's not always about bitterness or loneliness. Sometimes it's something deeper, an awakening inside you, a quiet shift that changes how you want to spend your time. Maybe you've noticed you don't enjoy visiting others the way you once did. If that sounds familiar, let me reassure you, you're not alone and you're not wrong. In fact, this change is rooted in wisdom. In today's video, we're going to explore 6 powerful reasons why many older adults stop visiting others after age 70. These aren't just about health or convenience. They go deeper. They reveal how stepping back is a sign of giving up. It's a sign of growing into a more peaceful and intentional version of yourself. It's not about turning your back on people. It's about finally turning toward your own heart. So, if you've ever caught yourself saying, "I just don't feel like going anymore," stay with us. By the end of this video, you might not just understand your feelings. You might even start feeling proud of them. The first reason is emotional boundaries. After 70, you start to feel how much emotional energy every visit takes. You might expect physical tiredness, but it's the emotional exhaustion that hits harder. Conversations that once felt light now feel heavy. Listening to complaints or endless talking without anyone asking how you are can leave you drained. Instead of leaving refreshed, you leave feeling empty. It becomes clear that not every interaction feeds your spirit. And while others might assume you're pulling away because of age or illness, the truth is you become more careful about where you place your heart. Emotional boundaries aren't selfish. They're a form of survival. You're no longer willing to give up your peace just to meet someone else's expectations. This is real psychological growth. In earlier years, we're taught to please others, to be polite no matter how we feel. But aging teaches us to unlearn some of that. It teaches us that protecting your peace is not rude. It's wise. Like Paul, who's 82. For years, he visited his brother every other Sunday. But those visits always ended in political arguments and painful family talk. One day, Paul quietly stopped going. His brother didn't understand, but Paul did. Peace was more valuable than routine. Emotional boundaries also mean recognizing when a visit is no longer mutual. When someone seems distracted, more interested in their phone than in you, that feeling of being tolerated, not cherished, becomes hard to ignore. So, instead of chasing people, you start saving your time for those who lift you up. It's not about cutting people off. It's about finally honoring your own emotional health, just like you would honor an aching back. You would walk 5 miles on a twisted ankle. So why keep walking into conversations that twist your heart? The second reason is time reevaluation. When you're young, you give your time freely. Long visits, endless chatting, all under belief there's always more time. But after 70, that belief changes. Time no longer feels endless. It feels rare, personal, sacred. Every hour now must feel worth it. Not in a selfish way, but in an emotionally meaningful way. Now, every hour you spend with others is 1 hour you don't spend resting, healing, or doing what truly brings you joy. You start to notice how few mornings you may have left to sip your coffee in peace. How few walks, few sunsets, few books. That isn't depressing, it's empowering. That's why older adults often stop visiting people. Not because of resentment, but because their definition of time has changed. It's now reserved for what nourishes the soul, not what drains it. For connections with meaning, not shallow small talk. For their own dreams, not someone else's plans. Like Lorraine, 76, who used to drive 3 hours every month to see her cousin. Those visits became routine and emotionally flat. One day, she said, "I'd rather spend that time at the lake with my sketch pad." And she did. And she felt lighter. She felt alive. It takes maturity to say no without guilt. You're not being rude. You're being wise. You're choosing what adds color to your life and leaving behind what no longer fits. The third reason is emotional drain. After 70, the cost of some visits becomes too high, not physically, but emotionally. It's not that you become antisocial. It's that you become emotionally honest. You've outgrown gossip, small talk, and invisible power games some people play. You've lost your tolerance for emotional clutter. That's not a flaw. It's maturity. Now, Many older adults walk away from visits feeling emptier, not fuller, not because anything dramatic happened, but because nothing did. The conversation felt repetitive or disconnected. You nod and smile but feel nothing. That's not you fading. That's you realizing you don't need to perform for others anymore. You've done your share of smiling politely, of showing up when you didn't want to. And now, you want peace more than performance. Psychologists call this emotional selectivity. As we age, we become more selective with who we share our energy with. You start choosing fewer, but more meaningful relationships. Solitude feels better than pretending to connect. Take Harold, 74. He used to visit family weekly. Even though no one really asked how he was, they talked over him, showed off, ignored his presence. One day, he stopped going. Instead, he started gardening and walking with a close friend who really saw him. He's never felt more grounded. If you leave a visit feeling emotionally stripped, that's your inner wisdom speaking. It's telling you to stop giving yourself to people who don't value you. And once you listen, you can't unhear it. The fourth reason is physical energy. Nobody tells you that even a simple visit after 70 can feel like a mountain climb. You start the day with good intentions, get dressed, pick a gift, head out. But by the time you return home, you're exhausted. That's not weakness. It's your body asking for more respect. Energy now comes in smaller portions. A short visit might cost you the rest of the day, but others don't see that cost. They wonder why you don't show up. They don't realize what it takes for you to show up at all. You weigh each decision carefully, what your body can manage versus what it can't. And you notice the discomfort more now. Hard chairs, stairs, loud voices, heavy meals, they matter more. Rather than push through, you start choosing comfort over obligation. Psychologists call this embodied wisdom, the body's way of guiding you toward what's good and away from what isn't. Like Barbara, 78, who used to attend weekly coffee meets, but just getting there, parking, walking, sitting, left her sore for hours. She finally stopped going. When a friend said, "We miss you," she replied, "I miss me too, especially when I overdo it." Saying no isn't giving up. It's finally listening to what your body needs. The fifth reason is emotional economy. At this stage, you begin treating your emotional energy like money. You don't spend it where it brings you nothing. For years, you tolerated hurtful comments, forgave too easily, said yes when you were exhausted. But after 70, something changes. You realize your emotional battery recharges slower. Negativity lingers longer, and you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You start saying, "I don't need this in my life." Whether it's a toxic friend, an unkind sibling, or a neighbor who only complains, you start choosing peace. Not because you're cold, but because you want to invest deeper in the people who see you. You stop chasing those who don't call. You stop justifying yourself to people who never care to understand you. You tend to your emotional life like a garden, clearing out the weeds so joy can grow. Like Walter, 82, who used to call his son every Sunday. But those calls were filled with tension and criticism. He finally stopped, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. He redirected that energy to a kind neighbor who loved jazz and crossword puzzles. That's emotional economy. At this age, you protect your emotional space because it matters more than ever. The sixth reason is a self-respect awakening. Somewhere after 70, you stop waiting for permission to value yourself. The need to be liked fades. The fear of disappointing others dissolves. And a deeper truth rises. You must protect your dignity. This awakening doesn't come loud. It arrives quietly after being dismissed or misunderstood one too many times. When you're young, you confuse kindness with compliance. You shrink to keep peace. You say yes when you want to say no. But later, the cost of betraying yourself becomes too high. So you start choosing differently. You walk away from draining conversations. You stop lowering your standards to feel included. You begin to realize peace matters more than popularity. There's a calm power that grows with age. You see it in the way older people walk, talk, look others in the eye. It's not arrogance. It's earned respect. You know your worth, and you begin setting boundaries, not in anger, but in love. Like Marilyn, 76. She was always the one called to babysit, host, organize. But last year, she politely said no and spent a quiet weekend at the lake instead. When her daughter said, "But everyone's counting on you," she replied, "For once, I'm counting on me." That moment didn't just change one weekend. It changed everything. Her family learned to respect her space, and she learned to honor her needs. This awakening is not about shutting people out. It's about showing others how to treat you by how you now treat yourself. If you're over 70 and you found yourself pulling back, seeking peace, or just feeling different about social visits, know this. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, something very right is happening. You're evolving. Aging brings clarity. It strips away what never mattered and reveals what truly does. And part of that is realizing not every relationship is meant to last. Not every tradition is worth repeating. Not every version of you is meant to stay the same. You're growing into your wisest season. You've earned this peace. You've earned the right to choose you. And that's not selfish. That's graceful maturity.